What's up, dudes? Looks like we got a couple viewers on YouTube. How's it going, guys? We're talking about. Oh, I'm doing great, Bardio Rahani. How's it going? I'm Morgan Smith. I'm over at Calm with Kava, and it's Black Friday week, so we're just kind of hanging out, talking about Kava, looking at some Kava videos, and some, talking about the botany if you want, or if you have any questions about Kava. I own the company, so I've been selling Calm with Kava for quite a while now, and I've been growing Kava in Hawaii, and I know all of our farmers, of course, in Fiji and Vanuatu and Tonga. So if there's anything kind of about Kava you have a question about, I'm here to answer all your questions. Yaman Todo Viejo Como. I don't know what that means. Let's see. Todo Todo. I think Todo means like everything, right? Yeah. Anyways, what's going on with you guys? This is right here is a plant in Hawaii, and it looks like it's a probably something like a mahakea, which is a Hawaiian cultivar. It looks a little different though, so I'm not sure it is because it's not as purple as it should be. But yeah, so these are some videos from our farm. We've got as well as like a lot of taro, a lot of kava, of course, and there's sugarcane up there. We've also got some pigeon pea and basil and marigolds and stuff like that. So yeah, kind of an interesting little hodgepodge of things that we grow there. Big old mulch piles. You have to have a bunch of mulch in order to grow it properly. So yeah, any questions about kava from any of you folks? Kava is also grown all throughout the South Pacific, right? So it's really difficult to grow anywhere outside of the South Pacific, and it's one of those things that is very important to South Pacific culture, Polynesian, Melanesian cultures, Micronesian cultures. So these are big kava plants up there, and on the sides we've got these windbreaks for like that are sugar cane to make it so that like young plants can survive for a long time. These are some big nice leaves, and so these darker varieties here. This looks like maybe a hiva, which is a Hawaiian cultivar. They are very, they're actually very like sacred to Hawaiians. The dark varieties, they look like lava, right? So if you think of whenever people talk about Pele or volcanoes in Hawaii, that symbolizes lava. So it's a very important plant for Hawaiians. So that's some sugar cane. That's a Hawaiian cultivar of sugar cane that we have there, and we plant that there because when kava is super young and it has a hard time growing, right? Wind is a big problem. And if there's too much wind, the plants won't grow. So we put those all around, and it also helps to stop disease, right? So kava has a big problem with cucumber mosaic virus, which is one of these diseases that it basically will destroy an entire crop. like immediately, and so we want to make sure that if cucumber mosaic virus gets in there, that it might kill a couple of plants, but not the entire field, right? So that's why that's in there. You'll see some other leaves like we've got some taro in there. We plant taro in the beginning because the taro leaves will shade the kava as it grows and make sure that the kava can stay nice and healthy. And so baby kava plants, they really don't like the sun that much, right? And they also really don't like not being watered, and they also really don't like wind. So as long as you can control for all those different things, kava will grow, right? So that's it's kind of a short little kava's grown. Oh, it's also sterile, right? So you cannot just take kava, take like a seed and put it into the ground. It doesn't work like that. For 3,000 years, it's been used by Polynesians as something that they but it's been used for 3,000 years by these folks, and they basically take a cutting, right? So a part of the stem, and you take that stem and you put it onto the ground, and that stem has roots that grow into the ground, and it will then create a brand new plant. But you can't just take a seed. It doesn't have seeds. It has flowers. You'll see some of the flowers, but they're worthless. They don't really do anything. I don't really know why it decides to keep making flowers, but it's got them. It's got them indeed. Yeah. Do you guys have any questions about kava or how it works? Um, let's see. Oh, there's some tea plants there as well. Let's see what else we got here. Um, it's kind of a general overview, right, of like how it looks in the fields, right? You've got these big windbreaks and berms that help protect from erosion and wind. And then you've got some of these plants are taro and pigeon pea, which helps with nitrogen, all sorts of things. Uh, hey, how's it going? MJI is back. Hey, Nye, what's up, bro? Good to see you, Toko. Just here talking about some kava and showing off the farm a little bit. So yeah, I'm gonna close the door real quick. It's a little loud. But yeah, so we're just talking about kava. Look, Nah, you gotta come out to the farm, my guy. I think you would love it. I was just showing off this video earlier where we have a bunch of taro. We've got some ava right next to it, right? So the taro leaves, they shade the baby kava plants, and so we plant those before we plant the kava, so that way it stays nice and healthy. And because baby kava plants, they really don't like sun, they don't like wind, and they don't like not getting water, right? So Hawaii has kind of the perfect thing going for it, right? Because it has volcanic soil that's well draining, but it rains all the time. This area, it rains like the other week. There was a day where it got 5 inches of rain. That's over half of what Phoenix gets in a year in one day. So it's kind of crazy. Yeah. Yeah, nice. So this is where I need you to go. I need you to see this, man, because this is really really cool stuff. All these kava plants here, they're only about a year old, maybe a year and a half. That's very like insane. Most kava plants, when they're that old, they're half of that size. But these are larger than I am. So yeah, we're about to harvest some of them next month just to see like where we are in terms of size of like roots and stump and how much we're actually going to get from it. We did harvest some in a different field, and that was almost 3 years old, but the plants were kind of stunted. They had like issues with pigs got into the fields, and some cows got into the fields, and they accidentally got sprayed with some neem oil, which basically like helps to kill like aphids and stuff like that. It's like a very organic thing to use, but if you spray too much of it, it hurts the plant. So they were kind of like, oh, and they also weren't watered a lot, right? So we didn't have an irrigation system in the beginning. So they kind of, there's a couple flowers. But so these plants, though, they've all had proper cover crops. Like crotalaria is a flower that we plant prior to the fields being prepared, or I guess it's part of the prep process. We put this crotalaria to help nitrogen and to fix nematodes that are in the soil. Nematodes are these parasites burrow into the roots and they ruin it. So they kind of they eat the plants. It's not a good thing. Um, yeah, we do got to get some content there. Yeah, man. Oh yeah, let's break it all down. But so once we do all that, right? Like once we prep all the fields and everything, then the kava can finally go in, right? But it takes a long time to get to that point. That's a bunch of mulch. You want to make sure that you kind of hill up and mound the kava so that it sits on top of the soil, so that way it drains everything and all that mulch breaks down over time and fertilizes the plant itself. Yeah, for as much as kava as I've drank, I've never even seen a fresh kava farm. Dude, most people have never had fresh kava or have never seen the plant, don't really know a whole lot about farming it. They know how to drink it, right? you guys are, you guys know what to do there, but it's just a different animal. Here, let's see if we can find some other ones. Um, Here's some drone footage, I think. Let's see. Same kind of field, right? So that's like our barn area where we've got a couple greenhouses. So you can see like we shaded off in the very beginning so that it like the sun doesn't kind of. I mean, you can see it's full sun here, so it's a problem, right? Like you really should be planting it in like a forest. And what we're doing is we're planting a bunch of trees as well. So in the future, it will be a forest, and because it was used as like sweet potato and sugarcane crops, and it kind of ruined the soil. We do have some cattle there too, but there you go. That's a good view. So we've got these four greenhouses. We also have a greenhouse on the side up here, and then all of those greenhouses together, we've got thousands of kava plants that are being grown, right? Um, so hopefully, oh, and we got some bananas here. We got some cassava, some manioc, some more kind of test patches of kava and other things. But that's like the kind of the main epicenter. And then we've also got in a different spot. Oh, here's some passion fruit that passion fruit grows everywhere over there, so it's delicious. It grows like a weed. We're also growing some taro. That's really cool. This is really cool, actually. I wonder if I can fix this thing so that you can see it better. I want to get my face out of the way. Hold on a second. How do I get me out of the way? Hide camera. There we go. So this guy, you can see this is a taro plant, and on the underside, if you break the leaf, it looks like it's blood. So like it's pretty cool because if you think about like all those stories of how Hawaiians came to be, and how they came, the traditional stories talk about how they came from taro, or kalo, as they say, right? And so it bleeds just like us. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. Pretty cool. Let's see. Here's some. This is a different variety of taro, but it is really pretty. This is the underside of the plant, and it's got this beautiful. It kind of looks like rhubarb, right? Like kind of like a funky looking rhubarb. At least the stalk itself, and then the underside, of course, is green and yellow, or green and red. Let's see if we can find some kava. Here's some. That's frozen. Hold on. I can't show you that yet. There we go. Here's a barogu. So this barogu, it was about 2.5 years old. This is one of those stunted plants that I was talking about. But that's exactly what kava is, right? You have the lateral roots that grow up from the sides, and those lateral roots are what's the most bitter, but also the strongest part of the kava plant. And then this is the ball of the stump of the plant, and these stems here, that's what you would consider like loena, or stump. If you ever hear of chips, or stump. That's what that is. So the waka is the roots, and the Luena is the stump. All consumable, all really good. Um, and when it grows, you can kind of see like we'll see the roots kind of shooting out the side here because they kind of grow laterally, right? They grow outwards from the plant. And then these stems, you can consume the first like three stems. That's the usual kind of, like what everyone says, right? You can drink the first three stems of the plant. So here's a nice big one. It looks like maybe it's either a Hiva or a Moe. I'm not sure which one it is. It might. I need to be better at identifying these plants, but it looks like it's probably a. But here's some pigeon pea next to it that fixes nitrogen in the soil to make sure that it's like nice and healthy. It's a beautiful sunset. Pretty insane. But you can kind of see, right, like in these knuckles here. I'll stop it here. There's like right here. Do you see these lenticels, these spots? These spots are where the roots actually grow from. So when you want to make a new kava plant, you cut it here and here, and that way you're just left with this knuckle, and that knuckle gets we put it into some like a watering system so that it doesn't have a whole lot of things competing for it. If you put it into a forest and you've got all sorts of other things like weeds growing around it, it's going to be a problem. But for us, we just put it into some, we'll make sure that it grows nice big roots, and the roots actually come from those lenticels. And then it's really kind of a wild thing when he's actually, I have a picture of that. Let's see. Can you smell kava at the farm? No, I wish, man. I wish like when you take a leaf, you can like kind of break the leaf and you can kind of smell it. But the roots, you don't really smell that sort of like peppery sort of scent, right? It just isn't really that way. Trying to find a good. There we go. So that's what that would look like, right? So you've got these, so those lenticels I was talking about, and also from like the inside of the knuckle there, that's where the roots are shooting out from, right? So we take that, once it looks like this, then it can go into some soil. It can go into like, a pot of dirt that would look like that, right? So you take the dirt, you kind of get these little, some little holes to make it a little bit easier. I don't know if we can see. Sticks it right inside. There we go. And kind of delicately put some dirt around it so that way it doesn't mess up all the roots. Let's see what else we got around here. Oh, this is we were harvesting a smaller plant a little while ago, and basically we took a hose and just saturated all of the ground around it to make the dirt easier to pop up, and then we dig about a 6-foot kind of gutter around the plant just to make sure that like we get all of the lateral roots. And then the whole process of like digging up those roots and keeping them intact is what comes next. So it gets a little bit muddy, a little bit crazy, but eventually, we're seeing kind of, the sped up version of this here, but eventually you kind of come out with this little stump. There we go. So that little guy looked that big. So once it kind of gets out of the ground, that's like, probably 20 pounds or so right there. So they're just washing off some of the excess dirt. And again, all that Luena here, all that waka here, that's real fine sort of hairs. Now this is a young plant, right? At this point, this is probably a 2-year-old plant. So most of the kava that we get is probably about 4 or 5 years old that we import from Fiji or Vanuatu. But this is like a 2-year-old plant. So it's very young but very good to drink and just fine. There's a guy named Vincent Lebeau, and Vincent Lebeau is one of the foremost like kava researchers. And he basically said that kava lactones, which are the active compound in kava, they are the most concentrated at about 2 years old. And so this is actually perfectly acceptable drinking kava. And in fact, a lot of people in Vanuatu will harvest a plant at 2 or maybe 3 years old to drink it fresh. And the only reason that they want it to go 5 years old there is so they can export it. So it's a little bit, kind of different than if you go to like Tonga or Fiji, where they want it really, really old, even though they dry it, right? Just kind of different styles of drinking. So as we wash all that stuff off, kind of break it up, you got all these different pieces of it, and the outer bark gets peeled off. And then once that outer bark gets peeled off, like that, then you can go ahead. We like to freeze it beforehand, so you freeze it for a couple hours to basically make it so that the kava is easier to grind. Right, the water freezes, it expands, it breaks the cell walls, and it just makes it easier to grind up and consume. So once once that happens, and at the same time, right, like we're making cuttings as we've harvested, right? So he's making some cuttings here because that way, otherwise, if we just keep harvesting without planting, then we're not going to have kava anymore, right? For thousands of years, this was done, right? You pull up a plant and you also plant additional cuttings from that same plant. Hold on though. Let me see if I can find. A couple months ago, or like last month, I was there and we were grinding some fresh kava. And you're seeing a bunch of random marketing stuff that I did while I was there. There we go. So this is fresh green kava, and you can see like I haven't changed the color of this at all, right? Like you can see, the white balance is totally normal. So if you look at how deep green that is, this is a really intense. This is actually a Barogu, but a really intense, really good kava, and it is super, super good, but also very strong, right? That you won't need a whole lot of to feel. Let me show you one other thing I was going to show about fresh kava, right? Because you can basically take that and turn it into, let's see, where are we at? There we go. So what I like to do is I put it onto a blender, right? The plant keeps planting. Hell yeah, it does, dude. So you basically just put this into a blender, right? So this is fresh Barogu. So just like you would do with like powder, right? If you just took fresh kava powder, you could put it into a blender and make the drink. You do the same thing with fresh. And I think it's actually more important to do with fresh kava because it really extracts all of the kava lactones. So, there we go. So it's in the blender, and then once it is kind of sitting there, hold on, it turns into this really milky, thick substance. And it is really, really good. So see how thick that is? It's crazy. Now, I like to make it really thick that way, personally. In Vanuatu, they make it super, super concentrated. And that's kind of how I like to make my first sort of preparation. Can you drink it fresh like that? Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's how they drink it in Vanuatu. And that's like my preferred method of drinking kava. It's the best. It's so good. So you can see how milky it is already, and how like it doesn't it doesn't take a lot of effort, right? It's already super thick. Now normally I will do, that's 1 pound, right? So normally I'll do 2 or 3 washes with this. So the first one I'll make it really concentrated like this, and then I'll throw it back in the blender with another good bit of water, and then it will and then you just have a lot more kava. I think with 1 pound of kava, you can easily have 4 to 6 people drink it in an evening, and you'll have a great night. But so, and you do need more, right? Like if you're drinking fresh kava, you need so much more. Like if I was going to have, kava for me tonight, and it was dried kava, I'd be having about 60 grams of dried powder, right? Whereas this fresh kava, I would have maybe a quarter of a pound, or if I'm feeling a bit crazy, a half pound. That's like between 112 grams and 226 grams, right? So like at least double the amount of fresh kava, or you would need at least double the amount of fresh kava as you would dried kava. But so that's the general sort of deal. Now that is super thick and it is really concentrated. Now you'll notice all these bubbles. That's because all the oils within fresh kava are just so much more available than dried kava, right? When you dry kava or you dry anything, a lot of those oils evaporate, they go away. If you have really quality kava, you'll still see that with dried kava, but it won't be as apparent. And this, actually, I have a video in Vanuatu where they were kind of showing off for me because they're basically showing Vanuatu 2022 for. So they're kind of showing off for me, right? They were like, hey, here's a bunch of the fresh kava there. Let's see if I can find Pentecost. Let's see. A lot of kava. They're drying some kava here, or like washing it. They'll take the roots and clean off all of the dirt and everything like that, so they can drink it fresh. But that's not what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is okay. So that's actually Vincent LeBeau. I was talking about him earlier. He's like a hero. He's like the foremost kava researcher in the world. So that was really cool to have a show of kava with him. But let's see, where the heck is this? There we go. Okay, so I'm here in Pentecost, and actually on the way there, we're in this boat, and there's flying fish, which I've always heard of flying fish, but I've never actually seen it. Here's like a traditional nakamal, which is like the community, kind of kava drinking center, right? But it's not all about kava, right? It's also just about just hanging out as a village together. They like make mats in there and skirts, and they prepare food and all sorts of other like sort of community things. We were driving around, adorable kids hanging around. Now you'll notice like there's kava everywhere. Like these are kava plants in the back that it's just in their backyard, right? It's just a very normal thing for them to have kava everywhere. So this looks like a boranguru. I can tell because it's these short, somewhat red or brown looking parts of the plant. Let's see. Okay, so this is like a traditional place where they would grind kava. So they've got their spots for their coconut shells. Here is where they take the mashed up kava, and they would pour it, and they would like mash it up, add a little bit of water, and pour it into the shells right there. And I'll show you them actually doing it because that was cool. Oh, and this is really cool. So this guy owns the field that we're looking at, and in this field it goes all the way down, all the way up through this valley. And he said that this is one of his 6 fields. So they have tons of kava in Vanuatu. Just depends on if you want to harvest it all. So it's a lot of work. Okay, so this is where this guy was helping us out. He was grinding the kava here. Let's see. Here's a video of that. Okay, so he's basically got this like piece of stone. It's a piece of coral, and he's using it as like a little hand grinder. And he has a little piece of hibiscus bark, and he's got some fresh kava in there. And he's just very, methodically sitting there and grinding the kava. So you can see it slowly comes out as a little bit of a mash. It took him a long time to make that big pile that you're seeing over there. And then once he's done with that, he takes the kava and he puts it into the same little like hibiscus bark, and he adds a little bit of water, And you see how he's bringing it way up, and it's showing all those bubbles. That's showing you how strong it is. That there's a lot of oils in there, and that it's really, really good. So that fresh kava right there is very similar to what you would have, or what I made in Hawaii, but he was doing it by hand. I had a blender. It was really, much more convenient for me. Yeah, man. Yeah, I think it's super fascinating. I think a lot of people that like kava, this is where kava, from DNA, we know it originated in this area. And, so all of kava culture sort of came from this kind of spot. Now, obviously, if you have like your traditional storytellers in Tonga or Samoa or Fiji or Hawaii, right? That doesn't necessarily line up, right? So just keep that in mind. But it is, from everything that we can tell scientifically, all kava varieties came from Vanuatu, from maybe the Solomon Islands up north a little bit, but it all came from this area, which is why, like, as you drink kava in Vanuatu here, it's a little bit more sedating. It has the potential to have a little bit more of a nauseating effect, but as you go towards the east and you go, through Fiji and Tonga, Samoa, the Marquesas, Hawaii, it gets more and more euphoric. It starts to taste less bitter and less peppery. And it's because farmers and the voyagers way back when were, they were choosing the plants that they wanted. So if they had one that tasted better or that felt better, they would propagate that plant over and over and over again. And eventually we have what we have today, where we have, over 100 varieties of kava that really are pretty fantastic. So yeah. Any questions about kava? I've kind of gone through a lot of random stuff here, but I can just keep popping through all these photos. They're pretty wild, These nakamalls are really, really cool. These old, or not even necessarily that old, but just these villages, with like even looking at how they like weaved all this stuff, right, and how they bound all these pieces of lumber together. It's amazing. Like it's incredible what they were able to do, and without having any like really modern tools. They just kind of made this stuff. Unreal. I could never do it. I could never do it. That was the chief's spot. He let Jack lay there. He did not let me lay there. So Jack apparently is a very important guy. Yeah, Kava 101. That's right. That's exactly what this is. So yeah, that's kind of Vanuatu in a nutshell. Do you want to see some Fijian stuff? I know we got a lot of Fijian lovers in here. Let's see. So this is like in Fiji, and this is in Nandi. So like one of the main kind of capitals, or, well, not really capital, but like one of the main kind of places in Fiji, right? And this kava market has, you can tell, just so much kava. Like the market itself was a big market, and half of it was kava and the other half was food. So you can tell how important kava is to these cultures, because, or to the economy as well, right? Because it is super, super important to them. So anyways, let's see. So we found some, it took us a long time, but we basically went through the jungle. We drove forever. We were walking forever, and we finally got up to some plants. Let's see. Actually, I'm standing there behind some. So these black plants. Black in Fijian is loa. So when you have loa waka is the roots that come from this black plant. Pretty cool. A lot of plants there, big, nice ones. So these are different colors, right? So these aren't loa. I don't know which varieties these ones are, but they're huge, and they were awesome. Uh, but this area of Fiji was beautiful. It was like just super jungly, super just remote. You know, uh, they have a lot of issues with infrastructure. Getting decent roads and stuff. They have that problem throughout Vanuatu and Fiji and Tonga, and but this area is no exception, right? So this took us about an hour and a half outside of like their city to get to this point. But it's really just insanely lush, so lush. A lot of these, like it looks small when you're there, but when you walk up to it, you realize that you're looking at trees that are 50, 60 feet tall and leaves that are taller than me, which is insane. I don't quite understand it, but here we are. Let's see, what else are we looking at? Some big bags of kava. Oh, take a look at this. So this is some of the fresh kava that they got in, and those are just the lateral roots. So these roots are the ones that grow out from the plant, right, from the stump. That's the waka. So when people talk about waka, that's what you're talking about. Really thick, and this plant, I would bet, is 6 to 7 years old. Really huge and really really nice. We were at like a it's called an isevu sevu, where they basically they bless the tanoa, and they performance for us. It was awesome. It was a blast. uh, we all had some fun times together. Yeah, really beautiful ocean there too. It was insane. Fiji's wild. Took these little tiny airport or tiny airplanes over there. Yeah. Here's some casa. So this is kind of like the warning to a lot of people that drink kava is like you never really know what you're gonna get if you don't know what you're doing, right? So here is a lot of casa, which casa is stem. And so earlier when I was talking about the parts of the plant that you use the upper or the bottom three kind of knuckles of the stem. And if you go above that, you don't really get a whole lot of cavalactones. You don't get a whole lot of, great effects. But these stems are what, a lot of people consume throughout the world. But we try to not buy these things. So because it just doesn't give you the effects that you want from kava, and kava is expensive, right? But this is just a good example because people say like, oh yeah, it's, I know exactly what I'm getting. Well, you could be getting this as an importer, but unless you're getting it whole, like I buy whole roots and whole chips because I want to know that I'm not getting a bunch of casa, that I'm not getting a bunch of stems. And because of that, and because we grind our own kava, I'm one of the few guys that know exactly what's in our bags of kava. I know that it's not going to have any casa because I can see it. I can see that we only have roots, right? Actually, let me see if I can find. Actually, earlier today, I was just taking. There we go. A video of our roots, right? So that's in our facility just earlier today. So that that shows you like we're getting whole roots, and we clean them and we sterilize them, and then we dry them and we make sure that they're super dry. So that way, by the time it gets to you, the bags themselves are sterile, and there's nearly pharmaceutical grade products in there. So it's really kind of important to me that we like continue to buy whole roots and chips because I want to know that it's really good, right? That it's not something that is gonna hurt anyone. It's not something that's gonna like be something that I'm saying it's not, right? A lot of people, if you just buy powdered kava from overseas, you just don't know what's in it. But I know what's in my kava, right? So yeah. Let me see. I don't know how to bring my camera back. It's a problem. How do I do that? Do I do this? Cinema? No? No? I don't know. I'm not sure how to do this. No clue. No clue. Yeah. Any questions on Kava or anything I can show you guys that you want to take a look at? Let's see, will that work? No. No, no, no. That doesn't help. I have no idea what I'm doing here. This is a problem, guys. Oh man. Dope. Dope indeed. Guys, this is embarrassing. I have no idea what's happening. Hold on, we're back there. There we go. Okay, this is a little better. But I still have no idea how to get my camera back. Ridiculous. Maybe am I an old head? Is that what's happening here? Maybe I am. All right. Well, if anyone has any other questions, let me know. I'll hang out for a couple more minutes, and then we'll peace out. Maybe I'll go live again in a couple hours. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for tuning in, and shoot us a message if you have any questions. We got a big Black Friday sale right now, so check it out, and we'll